Welcome back everyone. So I hope you enjoyed my previous videos. So today I'll be cooking mutton dalca and I'll show you how to make chapatis. I know it may sound too easy for some, but I didn't know how to make it. So if you haven't subscribed, do subscribe, click on the button below or follow me on Instagram. Ingredients are 1 onion chopped, 1 tomato chopped, 3 garlic cloves and 1 inch of ginger roughly pounded, 1 red chili sliced, 200 grams of mixed meat and also bone pieces of mutton, 1 potato cube. I've got the blended dal paste, so the instruction on how to make it will be below. For the spices, I'll need some cumin, coriander, black pepper and dried red chili, which I dry roasted and blended. 1 dried tamarind, or you could also use tamarind pulp. 1 curry leaf, 1 stick of cinnamon. This is about 2 inches in length of cinnamon stick. 3 cloves, 2 cardamom. And for the tarka, I'll need 3 small onions that have been chopped, 1 dried red chili, and also some oil, salt and turmeric. So I've added the oil and now I'll add in the spice, the cinnamon sticks, cardamom pods, cloves, and just let it blister or sizzle a bit, and we'll add in the onions. Right, so now the onions will go in. And just fry them till they brown or soften. The onions have started to brown a bit, so I'll add in the garlic and ginger. So the additional spice that I forgot to mention was asafoetida powder, about half a teaspoon, and also I'll need about 2 cups of water, or you can adjust the water amount according to the thickness of the gravy that you require. So now I'll add in the mutton and we'll just let them brown, and I'll add in the spices and the curry leaf, red chili, turmeric. And just give them a good stir. If it's too dry, add in a bit of water so that it doesn't stick to your pan. Just a bit so it doesn't stick to the bottom of the pan and the spices do not burn. So just let them brown. Once it's brown, you would add in the potato and also the dal. So it has started to turn brown. I'll add in the chili, tomatoes and also the potatoes and just stir them. So I don't need the potatoes or the tomatoes to soften, as I'm using an instant pot later. So I'll just add in the blended dal paste into right, and just give them a stir. And at this point you should add your water. So even though it's a paste, it may look little at this point, but it really thickens up. So you just add I'm adding about 2 cups of water to the wok. So at this point I'll add in the asafoetida. So about half a teaspoon of it, and I'll add in some salt and we'll transfer it to the Instant Pot. So the gravy has been added to the Instant Pot, and if you think it's too thick, add a bit more water. If you're fine with the consistency, you can just leave it, and it already smells great without cooking it yet. For the tarka, I'm heating up 1 teaspoon of ghee or clarified butter, or you could always use oil. So I've added the onions and also the red chili into the ghee. So we'll just let them brown before adding them into the dalca. So the onions have browned, and now we'll add it into the dalca. So the dalca is done. So I'll just add the dried tamarind in, and also the onion goes in, the tarka. So now we'll just stir them, and now we can just bring it to boil, let it thicken up a bit, and it's good to be served. Alright, so now let's move on to the chapati. So I'm using 1 cup of whole wheat flour or chapati. It's any flour of your choice. The outcome is still the same as I've tested. And I've got some cumin seeds and also a pinch of salt. The cumin seeds are optional. If you don't want it, you can always omit it out. So just add that in. And I'm using a bit of oil. You could also use ghee or clarified butter or just normal butter to soften it a bit. So I'm just using about a teaspoon of it. And I've got a cup of warm water. So this would be set aside first, and we'll just mix the flour with the salt and cumin seeds, and once it's well combined, we'll add in the water. Alright, so I've combined it well now, and I'll add in some water. So I'm just adding about just a bit, really. It's about not even a quarter of the cup of water, and you just mix it, and we'll just continue adding water till it reaches the consistency that we need. Okay, so it's more crumbly now, okay, as you can see. Alright, so it is crumbly a bit, okay, it's quite in some chunk, so don't worry about it. And we'll just continue adding a bit more water. So this time we just need to add a bit more. Alright, so it looks quite watery now, okay, so don't worry about it. Just mix them together, and I'll let you know when to stop. Okay, so just continue mixing it. Okay. Alright, so once it's mixed, we'll add a bit more water. Okay, so that's like half glass that I've used of warm water. So just continue mixing it together. So the water amount, yes, it takes some time to get used to the adjustments on how much you need for the dough, but you'll get the hang of it like I did. So now it's almost like a soft dough, right? So we'll just add a bit more water. Right? If you think the water is too much, you just add a bit more of the flour. If not, you're fine. Alright, so I've used about 3/4 of the water. Okay, so now it's a bit too watery. Okay, as you can see, it's too soft, too watery. There's still some excess water there, so don't worry about it. We'll just add a bit more flour. Okay, so what I'm gonna do now is just add a bit of flour. So this is about 1.5 tablespoons of flour, and you just mix them together, okay, until it's not sticky and mushy like this. Okay, so that's how the dough looks like. It's still crumbly. There's a bit of flour sticking to the bowl, so all you've got to do is just take a bit of water from your hand, just have to sprinkle it. Okay, so it's now a bit less crumbly, so you just mix it together with the remaining dough in your bowl. Alright, so if the dough is too crumbly, you just add a bit of water. If it's too soft, too watery, just add a bit of flour. Alright, so this is still a bit soft. Okay, it still sticks to the hand. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add a bit more flour and just continue kneading it. So I've added in total 200 grams of, or 1 cup of whole wheat flour or atta flour, plus about 50 grams of flour additional, as I added too much of water, and I've added 1 tablespoon addition of flour now. Okay, so it's too, as you can see, it's still a bit crumbly. There's still a bit of flour still falling off from the dough. So what I'll do now is I'll add a bit of water. My water is missing. Alright, so I'll just add, honestly it's about 1 tablespoon of water. So you're just wetting the dough and you just continue kneading it. Okay, so that should be enough to just mix it well together so that it doesn't become too crumbly or too wet. Okay, so just continue kneading it and until we get the dough consistency that we need. Right, so I'm done with my dough. Okay, so it's not sticking to my hands, and when I press it in, it's not sticking to my fingers, so that means it's done. Alright, so what I'll do now, instead of covering it with oil, which you always can do so that it doesn't dry up, I'm just gonna rub a bit of water around it, cover it with a cloth and leave it for about 20 minutes, and then we'll start kneading it, rolling it out. So we'll look at the dough now. So it's not sticking, right? It's not, and I'm just moving it from hand to hand, and it's still not sticking. Alright, so it's good. So now we'll have to just divide it into few small balls. Okay, so you can just do it in any size that you prefer. For me, about 3/4 of a golf size ball is just nice for me. Alright, so you just make the balls and just put it in, and you'll roll them out later. So now we are ready to roll out our dough. So one important note that I forgot to mention earlier was that before you divide the dough into small balls, just knead them a bit, then you divide them into balls and you roll them out. So we'll just take one. Alright, so there's one here. So I've got a bit of flour, so I'm just gonna press the dough a bit, sprinkle some flour, rub it all over, and do it the same for the other side, and we'll start rolling them up. Alright, okay, and there we go, and it's really soft. As you're rolling it out, you can see how soft it becomes. So yeah, it folded a bit just now, but now, so it's nice. Alright, yes, I can't make round ones, but an option is to use a bowl. Just go over the dough to the size that you want and just cut around the edges so you've got perfect round chapatis. Okay, so now we'll see how to cook them. Alright, so the pan is hot and we'll just place the chapati in. Okay, so just leave it for a few seconds and it'll start to bubble up. Okay, as you can see, some bubbles are slowly coming up. Alright, So if you want, you can use a cloth to just press the edges. I'm just using a ladle to do it. Okay. So as you can see, when you press it, the bubble starts to come. Alright, so just continue. So then now we'll turn it over. Alright, you can see the color has changed. Okay, and it has started to have bubbles in it. Alright, okay, so just put it a bit more. Make sure it just doesn't turn black. Alright, so a bit more and we are done. And we can just store them in a basket covered with a cloth, or you can put it in a Tupperware that withstands heat. So the chapati has started to have bubbles. Alright, so we are done with this. So I'm just putting it in a container where it withstands heat, so it's soft, and we'll just continue making more. That's it. So in case you wonder, how do I store the chapatis? So once I've rolled them out, I place them into a baking paper, or you can use an aluminium foil. Okay, so you can see the others are down here. Okay, so just fold up the edges and just put them in the fridge. If you really need to use it after a long period of time, you can even freeze them up, but I'm just using it in the fridge because I'm going to use it in the next few days, in about 2-3 days. Alright, so we are done cooking, and let's see how it turned out. So it's soft, and let's taste the dalca. Alright, it's really good. So do subscribe, do try the recipe, and let me know. Bye.